Welcome back. This is Boys and Ghouls Film Review, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And today, or tonight, we will be reviewing The Village of the Damned, the remake that was done in 1995.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You expect me to say something, didn't you? No. Okay, this is actually... there's two reasons why we're doing this.
It covers both horror and sci-fi.
No, that wasn't it. It's a John Carpenter direction in this movie. We like John Carpenter. And
it's our second John Carpenter movie we've done in a row so far.
And Reeves is in this movie.
Yeah, and this is probably our second time we're reviewing a movie with him in it.
Is this the last one?
Yes, the last one before he damaged his back and confined himself to a wheelchair.
This is I know Christopher's probably no longer with us, I believe. He's passed away. But to his family, this is in his honour. How's that?
Well, both movies we've reviewed so far are in his honour, and all that.
That sort of stuff. Anyway, here we go. Produced by Michael Prager, I think that's the right pronunciation, and Sandy King. Directed by John Carpenter. He's not a bad director.
He didn't really want to take part in this project.
This is a contractual obligation sort of thing. He had to make the movie for the studio, we believe. Yeah.
Yes,
anyway.
But he had a hand in making the script, and he didn't want to be mentioned in it. What?
I told you. If he did some tweaks to the script, he has to do over so much contribution into the script before he gets credited for any of the script writing. Okay. If he did a grammar check on it of his PC, he wouldn't get any notation as to he worked on the script, would he?
Yeah. Who else works on the script? David something.
Well, David Himmelstein and John Carpenter, but uncredited. But the main writer was David Himmelstein. Now, based on The Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham, I think that was an English book set in England, and the original movie was set in England.
Yeah, in this movie, the remake, it's set in somewhere in America, but they use the same fictional town in this movie.
Well, they use the same name, So, whatever. It looks like Castle Rock to me. No.
Well, I think that's where they probably modelled it after it. Or no, it's not really modelled after it.
Joking
I mean, it's supposed to be a small town. Small towns, everyone knows your name, yada, 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 whatever. You know, the whole story about that.
Yeah.
I like the whole idea that about, as I said before in our last podcast about small towns, I always love it when a story takes place in a small town and then some weird stuff starts going down.
So it can happen anywhere, folks, can't it?
Yeah, like the expression says, it could happen to any town anywhere on the planet, and it could happen to you. Well, not really. I'm just joking there.
Now, let's roll on. Dollars and cents. Budget, $22 million. Box office, 10.
Oh.
Now, I'm not saying anything about the quality of the movie or anything. It's just sometimes the box office can be downright disappointing to a producer and a director.
Yeah, well, when you drag a poor director on board, it's a little hard.
What do you mean, poor director?
Well, John was dragged into it. He was told, guess what, you're going to work on this project whether you like it or not.
And the point, if his heart wasn't in it, and the script, he wasn't, how to put it, he was the director, but it wasn't his script, and he didn't have a lot of faith in the project. Possibly it was a dollar's job.
Not that
maybe he didn't have the passion to drive it home properly.
Yeah, not that I'm picking apart this movie, guys, but I do think it's pretty interesting and creepy, and I like the feeling of it.
And that's the point. It's supposed to be. It was made up as a sci-fi horror film.
Yeah, and one interesting key thing about this production is that John Carpenter, he also did the music score for this one. So he did have a finger with the music, and that added a little bit more to horror and creepiness to it.
I was going to say before we were interrupted, this was served up as a sci-fi horror. To me, it comes over like more of a drama, suspense thriller with a bit of sci-fi thrown in. Now, that's not a bad thing necessarily, but if it's served up as a sci-fi horror, and people look at it and say it's not a sci-fi horror, and the marketing indicates to the marketplace where the people are coming from, it's, oh, you're going to like this movie, and it's not what they're looking for, they're not going to go to the theatre. And the people who could have gone to the theatre didn't go because they thought it was a sci-fi horror movie.
But I did think it was
I think they got the wrong target market.
I thought it was pretty creepy, and I thought the bits with the kids, like where they were the authority figures, the kids, it creeped me out. Like they
well behaved, sort of.
Like their mannerisms were like not like the mannerisms of ordinary children.
Well, you think of Mr. Spock, how he's got no emotions. Everything's logical. They're a bit in that ilk.
That ilk.
Yeah,
if that's the
everything
word.
is based on logic, and if they feel threatened, they will just take action. That's it. So
and if one of their people or one of their colleagues gets fretted or hurt, they jump into action and defend
and take remedial action.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's roll on to the actors.
No. Oh, not quite there yet. No, this was a remake of a 1960s film, based on the Midwich Cuckoos from John Wyndham. I know, I'm saying. And this remake was made in California, where the other one's made in England, like I said. I can't think of anything else I want to say.
How about the actors?
Wasn't there another movie made as well?
No.
No.
Oh yeah, they did make a sequel after Village of the Damned years ago. And it was called it was a sequel. It was a Children of the Damned, where it deals with all the kids. The alien kids were all from different parts of the world. Yeah. And then I won't go into the details of that story.
We might review that one later.
Maybe, or review the old Village of the Damned. Who knows?
Anyway. Let's get into the cast.
But again, as I said before in the past, we won't review them just yet. Too close for comfort, stuff like that. Anyway, so let's just move on to the cast.
Christopher Reeve plays Dr. Alan Chaffee. The town doctor. Very nice man.
And he sort of becomes a key part to the story.
Yep. Karen Kahn plays his wonderful wife, Barbara. Now, Kirstie Alley, she plays Dr. Susan Verner, who plays a scientist, sort of a doctor, sort of quasi-whatever, for the government, an epidemiologist working for the federal government of the United States, who investigates his mass pregnancies, which will be mentioned in the when Sarah tells about the movie. Linda Kozlowski plays Jill McGowan, the high school principal and a widow who becomes a mother of David. I won't go on to too many other people. I will mention one other, though, Mark Hamill. He plays Reverend George, the town minister. Yeah,
in this movie, I didn't pay too much attention to him in this one.
Yeah, look, I'm not knocking Mark Hamill.
Me neither.
To me, he's a fine actor. He did really good in Star Wars stuff. But something happened after Star Wars.
Yeah,
he slid off the rails. Something went wrong, and he started picking up bit roles here and stuff where Harrison Ford went on to bigger and better things.
Yeah,
and Mark Hamill,
and yet Harrison Ford, when he was doing Star Wars, he was worried that his career will stick to movies like Star Wars or Indiana Jones. But actually, he's gone on to bigger and better things.
He's done lots of different movies. But
so
Mark
it's
Hamill
his career.
The same, but something went wrong with Mark's career.
Harrison Ford's career has gone up.
Maybe it's a bit like Harry Potter.
Would you shush you? I'm trying to say that Harrison Ford's career has gone up, taking him places beyond Star Wars.
He's bypassed the action hero.
Well, Mark Hamill's career is going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, something just went wrong, so I don't know why. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, so Daniel Radcliffe in Harry Potter, I mean, he sort of got typecast as Harry Potter. And he has made movies. The Woman in Black, was it? The Hammer and some other movies. He played Victor Frankenstein movie.
Again,
he's done some good roles, but
again, I'm not even sure if they're enough to grab me.
No, the point is,
at least I heard Women in Black was pretty impressive. I heard, but
Woman in Black was a good movie. What I'm saying is that some of these people, like Daniel Radcliffe's first movie, Harry Potter, he got stuck in a franchise. Mark Hamill, to me, I didn't know him in too many other movies before Star Wars, so maybe he got stuck in the franchise mode and that destroyed his career. Do not know.
We'll never know.
But he's really out of place playing the Reverend, though.
Yes.
Anyway, I think it's ready for your tell.
Yeah, so I'll begin at the beginning. So it's early in the morning. Something is hovering over the sky over Midwich, and it's somehow aroused some of the men in the area. I'll mention two of them. I mention Dr. What's his name? Dr. Allen, and
they feel something's happening, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah, something hovering in the air. They can hear it. Don't know if it has any. Why the women are not noticing it too much.
Well, not everyone noticed it. I think one or two guys did. That's about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Move on.
So, anyway, he and his wife, Alan and his wife, didn't have any children just yet, and well, they're happy. They're still happy. They're still a happy couple.
Yay.
And all that stuff. And they're not the only ones. Jill and her husband Frank, I think his name is. They're driving down the road, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he says that he'll only stop smoking if she ever gets pregnant. And I imagine they probably been trying, and nothing came out. Or nothing has happened yet.
Nothing popped up. No.
Yeah, so they're having a village fair, whatever, barbecue, whatever.
Or whatever, school function or whatever.
School function. And at, say, about 10 o'clock, was it?
10 o'clock in the morning.
Something happens where all the people in that Midwich fainted. And the animals.
Cows, dogs, cats, birds.
Fainted. And that whole part of that town is in an unconscious state.
Yeah, and it's like a barrier. It's like you cross over that line, that part there, you'll just fall asleep.
Yeah, Dr. Allen is outside that border. I don't know what he was
doing a visit to someone or doing something.
And Frank was outside that border too, but then he arrives into the town and he falls asleep and he crashes his car.
No, because he fell asleep when he went too far towards the town,
Yeah, leaving his
car went boom.
Yeah, and leaving Jill a widow now. Anyway, soon enough, the public wakes up, and all the animals are revived and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then, then the horrible truth happens eventually. Everyone wakes up. One man is terribly burnt because...
One guy fell on the barbecue. He was laying there for 6 hours.
Yes.
He was well done.
Yeah, by this time, it's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes, they're asleep for 6 hours. Or in a coma, or whatever. They were just not awake.
Yeah. So then eventually each woman at different times finds out that they're pregnant. 10 women, I should say.
I didn't do it.
Yeah. And, of course, some of the women don't know what to do about this problem. One of
them was a virgin schoolgirl, never had a man, and she fell pregnant too, and everyone's going, woo.
Yes.
And there's not one lady, her husband's been away for 12 months. A bigger word.
Yeah, does this sound familiar? It's like something out of the Bible or something worse.
Apocalypse Now.
So Dr. Susan arrives and tells them, you guys can still keep your baby and we'll be sure to provide you a grant to help you raise your child.
As an incentive. But if you wanted to terminate your pregnancy, we'll be more than happy to assist.
Yeah. Of course, the next night, the mothers, all of them have a dream of them and of their baby and themselves, and they're probably wrote about themselves and their baby.
So you all decide to keep the little babies.
Yeah. So So as they progress, as they go through the baby process, and eventually the day comes when they deliver.
And all the babies are due at the same time on the same day.
Yeah. So the cars drive up to a red barn of sorts.
It was converted into a delivery ward.
Yeah, and all the women, again, did their babies delivered with their husbands prompting them as much as they can, except for the virgin I mentioned, who turns out to be having problems.
Yeah, and she had a stillborn baby.
Yeah, somehow the baby was stillborn, and this affected her severely, very badly.
Yes, mentally.
Mentally as well as
More
emotionally.
mentally, I think. Yeah, emotionally and stuff. Yeah, she was scarred.
Yeah, even though she probably feels horrified that she was a virgin, suddenly pregnant and all that stuff.
And then that baby. Yeah, that would be really hard to take in.
Yeah. And eventually Dr. Sue kind of takes the baby and disappears with it.
Yeah.
I won't tell you
where.
Well,
they want to experiment with it, obviously. With it. Wait, this is something wrong here. So, they want to find out what's going on, why these females get pregnant all at the same time, and all deliveries. There's got to be something happening.
Yes. Soon enough, after a few months, it seems normal. But then we started noticing something different about the babies. As it turns out, David, the baby that belongs to Jill, notices him writing his name
In blocks, little blocks for the letters on it.
Yeah, he's only 1 year old.
He could have been about one,
Yeah, because at this point his hair's grown a lot,
a little bit,
and his eyes are open and all that.
Yeah. He was 12 to 18 months old. It's still, hey, the kid's learning how to read.
Yeah.
Hello.
We then cross over to Dr. Allen's baby, and his wife is having a hard time with her. Her name is, what's her name, Mara?
The kid, Mara,
Yeah, and she gets her mother in a horrible accident. She burns her hand severely by using her telekinetic powers.
Yeah, they got mind powers well advanced. They telekinesis and all the other groovy things and mind control, and they can just, if they just look at you and say, "Whooper, I don't like you anymore, go and kill yourself," and you'll do that.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't know if it was from her own daughter's influence or her own, she took her own life. Alan's wife did.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. That part was a bit grey. We don't know whether being with the kids 24/7 was getting to her and she thought that something was wrong, so she topped herself, or the kid manipulated her into topping herself.
There's a little bit of a grey area that doesn't really explain the situation. It says that it was Mara's, influence, but I don't know. It seems like
we think it was. How's that? Because he was trying to make her burn her hand and stuff and everything. He's almost in some boiling water on the stove and things, and
8
he didn't like
or
it.
9 or I don't know how many years later. Eventually, the kids are all grown up, or
I would say they're
all grown.
In between 10 and 12, I think. Maybe 10. I'd say 10ish.
Yeah. And of course, Susan's reporting the issue to the government officials, telling them that their hair's grown, they're all dressing identical, they're like siblings than just ordinary children.
Yeah, spooky. Might have the same father.
Maybe. Anyway, we've watched them walking through the school. They're walking in 2 straight lines, and David is the most youngest of them all.
Now, and he's by himself because when the ladies were having babies, the lady who had the stillborn baby, we believe was a girl, and that was supposed to be his partner, and so he did that. So they're supposed to be 10,
but now they're 9.
They're 9, and he's a loose end. Yeah.
So while they're attending a sort of eye therapist or whatever they call it, eye doctor, and she accidentally pours some wrong eye stuff into the girl's eye, and it hurts her.
Oh yeah,
and that's when Mara and her group start using their mental powers to teach her a lesson.
What do you call them? What's an eye doctor? I can't know whether they call them.
I don't know what an eye doctor is. I know there's something there.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway.
And there's like an acidy thing. Why the hell you have an acid drop there?
I don't know. We don't know.
And the doctor burn her eyes out or scar tissue. You got scar tissue from using
eventually,
fluid.
Of course, Dr. Sue and Dr. Allen appear, and she says that keeps making excuses for the children a lot, saying that it was just an accident. There's no proof that these kids have did it. But I think the parents are aware that these kids are not ordinary kids. And Principal Jill says she doesn't think they should be in the school because they frighten the kids. They're not paying attention in class, stuff like that.
Well, they're ahead of the class, very much.
Yeah, because they know exactly what the teachers are thinking, and they're ahead.
And they were speed reading like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, she then tells Dr. Allen, maybe you should teach them. They respect you. But Dr. Allen doesn't believe that.
Well, he said, what can I teach them?
What can I teach them? And she says, humanity.
Yeah, which they didn't have any.
Yeah, she then approaches her son, who's a good little kid. And when she's tucking him in bed, he asks her, what is that word you're thinking? Empathy? And she then tells him mentally what it means, even though it's not in words, but it's but he understands, saying if he understands how other people feels, like their pain, he might understand how to relate to it.
Yeah, nice.
So while the other guys go off to find the barn they were born in, he goes off to the graveyard to find probably the resting place of his dead partner.
And it wasn't there.
He then sees the girl who's the virgin I mentioned, who's drinking there, and she's still depressed about what happened, say 9 or 10 years ago.
And you get a funny feeling that he's reading her mind, and he gets visions of her getting a pistol and shooting herself.
Yeah, she's very depressed, the poor thing.
And she gets up and walks off, and we don't see her again, so we presume she went to kill herself.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyway,
shame.
The kids arrive at the barn. They're looking around, probably getting the scope of the place. And while this is happening, Reverend George is reciting...
saying some words over
saying some words about how God made man in His image, and how about the insides of the person and all that stuff. And he's referring to the kids, which was a very significant part of the story.
Quite possibly.
Anyway, Dr. Allen, he's in the graveyard, and he notices David there, and he asks him, "What are you doing here?" And David says, "Looking for the baby. The one that was born with us, the one that died." And Alan is confused, and he says, "Do you have a memory of the baby?" And David just shrugs his shoulders, probably doesn't, but I think
he's aware of it, but doesn't know how.
Yeah. And he says that the baby was taken away, and he says it must be hard to lose someone you love. And David says, "She was ought to be with me." And he then notices Alan staring at a grave, and David says, "You lost someone too." And he approaches the grave next to him, and
he holds his hand.
Yeah, see, throughout this movie, none of the kids show any emotion.
Yeah,
none of them hug. No, they don't even hold their mum and dad's hands in a nice kind.
I don't need you. You just make sure there's food on the table and get out of the way. That sort of stuff.
Yeah, they have that type of
attitude.
Like
all teenagers.
Yeah, and I think Dr. Allen is starting to realize that maybe there might be hope for these alien kids, or at least few of them. So he decides to teach them. And, of course, it's a little hard to teach a bunch of kids like that, because in one scene while he's teaching them, he tries to talk about the human eye, or the eye. And Mara says, the eyes are the window to the soul. And when another kid says something same, one of the other kids, he says the same thing, meaning they don't have any set of different opinions.
No,
they all have one
communal mind almost.
Yeah. So he tells them to take out a book and start looking up some history about their culture, stuff like that. And,
it might help.
And meanwhile, a janitor appears, and he tries to act all drunk.
The teacher was called away. He was called away. He told the kids to read a book, and while he was out of the room, the janitor comes in, and he doesn't like the kids.
Yeah, he thinks that...
He wasn't so lovable either.
He then starts poking them with a broom handle, I think it was.
Teasing them and stuff.
And then he ended up poking too hard with it.
And he hit one of the kids in that side of the head.
Yeah. Eventually, all the kids, except for David stays in the room, still
hangs
back a bit, and watches
and the other
as a third-person way.
Use their mind control.
And they had that man stand up on a ladder and stabs himself with the broom.
They made him go up the ladder, backwards, mind you, and carrying his broom, those straw brooms, and they made him stand on the edge of the roof, hold the broom against his chest, point the handle end towards his chest, and the other bit sticking straight out, and they made him fall forward.
Yeah, kill him.
So he ended up being impaled by the broom handle.
Yeah, and
not bad.
Eventually, Dr. Allen appears, notices the dead body, and he watches the 9 kids walk away. David following behind slowly.
Yes, he was.
Later on, he approaches Dr. Susan and asks her about what these kids, all that stuff, and she shows him the remnants of the dead stillborn. It turns out to be an alien.
An alien, yeah. It looks, yeah. You know how the fetuses look in the first couple of months? They look a bit weird. Something like that, but a bit worse. Yeah.
Yeah, and she tells him to bury this in the back of his mind so that none of those little kids will know about it.
Yeah, otherwise I'll use it against you and maybe kill you.
And she's been building a wall around her own mind to avoid them finding the dead infant. Anyway, he heads home and he meets, and Mara approaches him saying there'll be some changes. He doesn't know what that means, but it sounds very severe.
Kids will be kids.
Yeah. Eventually, he then tells the principal about, I'm getting this mixed up. Sorry, guys. So, anyway, later on, the kids start packing their bags and heading towards the barn. Or, not really heading towards the barn. They get their parents to drive them there.
And the reason is they want to be separate from the town folk and the other kids.
Yeah.
So they can grow and develop at their own pace and what they want to do, which nobody knows what they're going to do.
Yeah. Anyway, Jill tells David not to go, and David says, don't act emotional, yada, 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 all that stuff. But she says that you're not like them, but he says we are the same. But they have similar powers, they have similar appearances, but they're not the same up here.
Yeah, David was changing. He was getting that. His human side is developing somehow. Empathy, other things, and a sense of love, loss, emotions which the other ones didn't have.
No, none of them seem to have it. Anyway, he then heads towards the barn, and of course the next morning one of the parents tries to get one of his kids back, and they using their mind powers, drive his car right into a gasoline tank.
No, LPG gas, whatever you can call it, America.
Destroying the car and destroying the poor man.
Exactly.
Yeah, and this is where it gets a little scary. So anyway, so Dr. Allen approaches the kids. He's the only one approaches them, throughout this movie in the barn. And he asks them, why do they hate them so much? And Mara says, it's not a matter of hate. It's more about survival for them. And
given half a chance, the human beings would kill them.
Yeah, and he tries to reason with them, saying, why can't we just live together? And she says that's not in their nature to live with them. They have to. It's more of a dog-eat-dog
survival of the
world.
Fittest and that sort of thing. Yeah,
dog-eat-dog
and
world.
these kids consider themselves to be fitter and better and had more right to be alive than the human beings who they deem to be not much more better than animals.
And Dr. Allen tries to explain that without emotions, love, feelings, you're a doomed race. That's what he says to them.
Somewhat.
And of course, she just says that feelings are just a weakness, but Dr. Allen doesn't believe that. He believes that David is starting to feel feelings and start believing what Dr. Allen is saying. Later on, after Dr. Allen goes, David is outside just thinking about his long-dead partner. And Mara approaches him, telling him, you're thinking about the one that died. And he says, she was been with me. And she then goes on to saying that while he's with them, he's expendable, or if that's the word.
Somewhat.
And she doesn't think it's a good idea just that he should be I guess, doesn't feel that he should that he should join them in their journey against the humans.
But he didn't have a partner.
Yeah.
He felt at a loss, and he didn't feel like part of the group.
Yeah. So
while I can understand poor little David's dilemma. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, while this is happening, Reverend George takes up a gun and tries to shoot the poor kids. I mean, not really poor kids, sorry.
Mara, wasn't it?
But
the leader. But see, Mara appears to be a ringleader, doesn't she?
Yeah, she seems to be the ringleader, and all the other kids just naturally, except David, naturally follow her.
Yep.
Yeah, like as I said, they're one mind, or except for David, who I told this to Mike the other night that without his partner, I think that's probably breaks the chain between him and the others.
Possibly, yeah.
Sort of, whatever connects all of them together must have severed between him and the rest of the group.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, that's one of the grey areas. Don't know why he's drifting. Maybe because he's not tied to anybody. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. So not giving him a reason to be part of the group more. Anyway, moving on. I don't know if his partner lived, would this be the same result, or would he?
Well, I don't know. That's the whole point. We'll never know. If he had a partner, then he would have been walking around side by side of her, and their minds would be co-joined, and their joint minds would be co-joined to the rest of the group. Yeah. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. In this case, I often think David is now cast amongst his own alien brethren and the humans. I think sometimes he must feel alone when he's among them, or among both species.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah,
anyway,
he just didn't feel part of it.
Back to Reverend George. He gets kids use their psychic energy to get him to shoot himself.
Yeah, so he gets his so he had shotgun, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, shoved under his chin and pulled the trigger. Yeah. Whoopee.
Not really.
No, sorry.
Although it was no loss on my part because I just still think that role was not really meant for Mark. Sorry, Mark.
What wasn't one of your better roles?
Sorry, Mark. Anyway, eventually the town begins to, starting rioting, and they start to eventually try to use their own way of forcing killing the kids, but somehow it doesn't go so well. One of the protesters ends up getting himself severely burnt. Herself. Yeah. Who was the Reverend's wife, I think.
They had this group of protesting townsfolk coming down the street.
Yeah.
And there was about...
Lynch mob. That's it.
A lynch mob.
Sorry.
And there's about 4 or 5 of the kiddies standing there blocking their way on the road. And they were just staring at the crowd. And the crowd stopped. The lady kept talking. And all of a sudden she went quiet. And she was carrying a
torch.
A torch, a fire torch, not a battery torch. And she dropped it. And right at the feet, and it set fire to her clothing, and she stood there and couldn't do anything about it, couldn't even scream, and she burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, and while this is happening, Dr. Susan tells Dr. Allen that other colonies with unexplained alien babies have, or destroyed the towns anyway, where the government decided to bomb them and not notifying the parents or the town what they were doing. So they end up destroying both the other babies as well as
everybody
and everyone else. So she says to Dr. Allen that you must get out of town, quickly, and all that stuff. And so the other scientists are starting to pack up their stuff quickly. Of course, Dr. Susan, she gets approached by the alien children, and they demand that she take them to the dead baby.
Yeah.
So she takes them to a private lab, and there they see it, and then they have her dissected, or not dissected.
Vivisected.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, David when he sees the baby, what was his expression when he's seen it, Mike?
I can't remember. He didn't say, "Oh, what a cute little baby." I know he didn't do that.
No, he was probably...
He was taken aback, but, oh, an alien? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He had ideas are aliens, obviously,
no
but
doubt.
They look like normal kitties. But
Yeah.
this dead one didn't look like a normal person because obviously... Look, I've got a funny feeling, again, that the kids didn't actually look that way. I think, to me, it was something like a mass hypnosis. Everyone thought they looked normal.
Maybe. I probably would agree with you there. If they had the ability to use their powers to manipulate their minds, they could also use the powers to create an image over themselves.
So, and that's it. So, they look like normal little children.
Yeah. Anyway.
Kind of lovely.
When he watches Dr. Sue get stabbed by the other kids, I think there was a bit of emotions in his eyes when he's watches. Yeah. I think he's starting to show more emotions.
Yeah, David is. Yeah, I reckon he's next generation or something. He's doing something, or he picked up some DNA somehow or other, or he shouldn't have, or
or something.
Didn't wash his hands.
Maybe he inherited it from his mother.
Well, possibly, I don't know.
Because none of the other kids seem to inherited something from their biological mum, or considering.
So, interesting.
Yeah.
He won't know. I lost Donnie Carpenter. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so anyway, the kids return to the barn, and the army guys start to approach them, and David stays in the barn, and he's out of sight, and while the other kids retaliate and start attacking and sieging on the army soldiers.
Well, mind attacking, so they start shooting each other and stuff, and police guys started shooting police guys, and then the army guys came and they started shooting at each other, and well, you can imagine the bloodbath. Yeah, Rambo would have been happy.
Yeah, while this is happening, Dr. Allen decides to get some explosives together and tries to blow up the barn.
Yeah.
And he tells this to the principal, Jill, and tells her that he can build a wall around his mind.
Yeah.
Because before, he tries to block out his daughter earlier using image of an ocean. Yeah,
when waves crashing on the beach and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. He then explains that he was thinking of the ocean because that was the times where he and his wife would sit and outside their house and watch it, and that was his most prize-winning memory of that time.
Yeah.
So he used it to block it. And he plans on building a wall around his mind so that these kids will be unaware that he was going to blow up the barn.
So he gets this large, something like a briefcase. I think they're called a pilot's bag or a map bag. They're like a briefcase, but they're wider. So he fills it full of dynamite and everything else.
Didn't you say before, Mike, that you had one? I think.
Yeah, I used to use one when I went to work, but I don't remember. Don't remember what it was called.
Yeah, and Jill is locked inside the her office, and she keeps she cries out to Alan, "No, David is a good one. He's not a bad person."
Yeah, oh, shame.
But
Mothers can't see the little angels being bad.
I think Alan is aware that David is not a life-threatening, evil person.
But anyway, she gets out of this locked room.
Yeah, she then steals the key from the
dead
person who's been burnt to a cinder, and she drives up to the barn where Alan is, eventually arrives, and these kids want to use him to get them to escape.
Yeah, they wanted him to arrange transport to take them somewhere. He said, "I'll arrange something, but it takes a little bit of time to do it." He was trying to delay them a bit.
Yeah, and he tells David, "Could you get some papers from my car?" But they can see he's stalling, and he is looking at the clock all the time because he's set the bomb for 12 o'clock at midnight.
Exactly. To the second.
Yeah. So, but then again, Jill arrives and she tries to take David away quickly, but the alien kids kept on stopping her and forcing her to leave, to not touch David. Eventually, David retaliates and tells her, Mara, stop, leave my mum alone. Or no, he doesn't say mum, he just says leave her alone.
Leave her alone, yeah. And he got out of the building with his mum.
Eventually, the kids are trying to break down
this barrier.
Dr. Alan's brain and try to break underneath the brick wall.
Just as they break through this barrier in his brain,
they
realise, oh, he's going to blow us up. And that was about 1 or 2 seconds too late.
Yeah, they look at their clock and boom.
And there's a bit of alien over there and a bit of alien over there.
And so David and Jill, they're spared, and they end up driving out of town. The town is a complete ghost town. It looks like it to me.
Well, most people left. Yeah, they're trying to get away from the alien kitties.
Yeah, and Jill turns to David and tells him, "Don't worry, David. We'll find a place where no one will know us." And David is staring off into the distance, looking at an uncertain future ahead of him.
You're sort of wondering, is he all David now, without any control from the other kiddies, or does he still have some of Mara and her friends in there as well? We'll never know. I
like to think that that the side of David came out, the good side to him. So
but he didn't smile. He just looked vague off that.
Well, if he smiled, then we would think.
Oh, a nice, friendly smile, not an evil smile.
I think when he's looking off in the distance, he's probably thinking that that there might be a rough future ahead of him.
Or a future without my brothers and sisters and that sort of stuff.
But I think he is glad that he's finally free of them, and he can be his own person.
Exactly. We'll get a job somewhere.
And maybe he may even use
McDonald's, Burger King.
And maybe he might be able to bring his world and
his world
the human world together.
He could end up being a peacemaker.
Yeah, he may be, or what do they call it? He could be a what do they call a person that negotiates between two cultures?
Negotiator?
Or
an emissary or something.
An emissary person to negotiate good things. Maybe even a teacher, just like Dr. Allen might be.
To sharpen up us people down here, and he got to live here. Yeah. If any more aliens come here to destroy his world, which he might have adopted.
Yeah. After this movie, I created it in my head ideal stories of what happened after David and his mum left the town. Like he may have changed his hair color so he can stick.
That would be a given.
They
all had pale skin and white hair.
Yeah, and it wouldn't take him too much difficulty by dyeing it.
Not too many albinos running around out there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do.
Actually, they didn't have white eyes though. They had different coloured eyes.
In this one, it was. It usually depended on their mood or how strong that mood is, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll go into that later on with the special effects.
A little bit like when you look at Twilight, when you think about that movie.
What about Twilight?
Well, in Twilight, when Edward's eyes were very dark, he's very hungry and hasn't eaten. Or if his eyes were just an ordinary orangey,
you got jaundice. Yeah.
Trappist color. It means that he's in a solemn mood or something.
There you go.
In this case, these alien creatures, their eyes would glow either green, red, or orange, strong colors. Or sometimes white, like way to the end when they were trying to read Dr. Allen's mind, their eyes turned a very striking white.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to the special effects later, but the point is, one colour went just ordinary eyes, and then the first colour change was a low level when they're just maybe reading minds and stuff. And then they get a little bit deeper into doing something, it changes another colour, and then when they're really getting on the attack mode, it goes into this white colour.
Yeah, and in this white colour, by the end of when we get to the white colour in the end of this movie, it's where the group is trying to read Dr. Allen's mind, and at this point we see a transparent layer of what the kids look like underneath.
Underneath the skin, that made me start thinking: was it an hallucination? Massive gnosis that the people were seeing the children's children are not what they really look like.
Who knows?
Aha.
I often think that maybe it was their power coming out more and more, and it's kind of
they wouldn't blend in if it looked like aliens.
Kind of did an X-ray type thing with their skin.
Okay, now let's get on to some production stuff here. I like this bit. I like the nuts and bolts stuff.
Me too.
Now, Mr. Carpenter mentioned, according to Mr. Carpenter, John, there had been several attempts to remake The Village of the Damned.
Really?
Yeah, since the Invasion of the Body Snatchers had been remade successfully. Yeah, I can't remember who was in the original black and white version, but the second one, the newer one, was, I think, Donald Sutherland was in it.
I think I heard of that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for years. And another reason why they wanted to do the remake is in the first movie, there's some things they couldn't actually say in the movie or do in the movie because due to censorship laws and stuff.
Okay, what was the
things like if you're going to see back in the olden days, 20 years ago, he said you couldn't talk about abortion.
Oh, I see.
You couldn't talk about mention impregnation. And that sort of stuff.
So how can you describe a scene where it deals with that?
They could have had to skip over parts of it a little bit when they made the original movie.
I see what you mean, though.
Everyone fell pregnant. There you go. Let's move on. And that sort of stuff, yeah.
So if a woman fell down on the floor, that indicates that she's pregnant.
Okay. Everyone fell asleep in the old movie. And they all woke up, and later on they found they're all pregnant. They skipped through parts of the movie in the old movie because they couldn't mention different things. Yeah. They didn't have a scientist going, oh, she must be impregnated by an alien. Yeah, no, the point is they couldn't use that sort of line.
I see.
So they had to sort of remold it a little bit and take it away from the book a bit, and yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a pain.
Yeah, it would, yeah.
Especially the scenes where with the with the women trying to figure out whether or not to keep the babies, even though they're not really their husbands.
And here's a funny bit: John Carpenter, when he was 12 years old, saw this movie.
You saw this movie?
He saw the original movie.
Yeah, I figured that. If it was
not the movie he made, obviously.
I figured if it was going to be his younger self,
he was
a younger Carpenter,
a young Johnny Carpenter when he was still at school.
Yeah,
he saw the original movie and he was taken by it, and he had a crush on one of the girls. Who was one of the aliens, I think. And,
no surprise.
And it stuck in his mind. And he thought, wouldn't it be great if she could mind control me? I'd go anywhere with her. That's all. Yeah, do anything
it's
she
a bit
wanted.
Strange that even though he was forced to do this movie.
Oh, he wasn't forced. It was a job like anything else, but I don't think his heart was in it.
Yeah, I guess he nothing beats the original, or for him anyway.
And this is actually filmed almost in his backyard because he knew exactly where to shoot it. He said, I live up in the area, in Venice, California, and Point Reeves, where they shot The Fog.
Yeah,
back in 1979. So he knew the area quite well because he lived up there.
Yeah, interesting thing, guys, is this is the second remake of an old movie that John Carpenter has directed. He previously directed The Thing that was done in 1982, yeah. And a remake was a remake of The Thing from Another World that was done in 1951.
I like the old one. It was right good.
Yeah, I think that everyone will agree with you in Halloween. Probably that the first Halloween that The Thing from Another World it was sort of made a bit of a sort of a product placement appearance in that movie.
Watching on TV. Yeah.
So I guess it hasn't escaped dear old Johnny Carpenter's mind in that when he was creating Halloween, he probably watched it on Halloween and thought it would be a great way to include some old footage in there for his own liking. And then he went on to make a movie about that movie. He must have really enjoyed making movies of using old black and white movies to make movies. If it's an old movie
and it's had a good script and you want to remold it and modernise it, why not?
Yeah.
And remember, I'd like to keep telling you, to me, the best movies, to me, and some people might go, oh, grown, are movies that are made from a good story. Now, a lot of these good stories come from books. Like this book, this was a book one. Stephen King books were made into movies, and lots of other books were made into movies because someone saw something magical in the written text, says we can use that. And then you get a good screenwriter involved, and then they bring the magic to the screen. Yeah.
An interesting thing, guys, that Johnny Carpenter.
Don't Johnny.
I'm sorry,
I call him Johnny. I shouldn't call John Johnny.
Yeah, I just like even though this movie wasn't his cup of tea, it was probably, I thought the music and the story was pretty interesting, and his, some of the main actors, I'm not necessarily pick, Mark Hamill, it will probably be my last choice as the Reverend, but I do like the, how Christopher Reeves did the role of the Dr. Alan, obviously. He did a good job playing that role. And the kids they chose were very spot on and did the role really well.
Yeah.
Another thing I should mention in this movie is, let me see, some of the kids, when they were they even wore blonde white wigs, and some of them had to dye their hair close to so.
Well, they want all the kids to have white hair and pale skin.
Like the little boy who played David, they had to dye his hair for the role because we'd be his most of the time we're always watching him in most of the scenes, and I guess when you're doing close-ups, you're going to have to make sure his hair looks like real hair color.
I wish this lady, actually the hairstylist Charlotte Gravener. She was a hairstylist, and like Sarah said, she bleached the hair on the actors who played the children. Yeah. It didn't say all or some or whatever, but applied a white hairspray to the hair, and that gave a very nice, bright white hair. Yeah. It made an alien feel to it. Now, wait a minute, I'm not finished.
Go on.
And along comes Bruce Nicholson and Greg Nicotero, and they applied special effects where the eye pupil colours changed. And when the children were doing their stunts, their mind stunts of the people around them, the different whites and the orange and the reds, and they look really good. Yeah,
I wonder though whether or not Roger Corman ever got his ideas for Not of This Earth from the book or from the movie itself.
There's so many stories out there about aliens and stuff. He wouldn't need to get it from this book. But aliens coming to Earth for one reason or another have appeared in so many movies. I don't know how many possibilities there are, but there's dozens and dozens and dozens, maybe hundreds and hundreds of movies.
I see comparisons with a little bit with the Village of the Damned kids and Roger Corman's Not of This Earth alien. They both deal with aliens with special hypnotic eyes that could kill you or use psychic powers to manipulate you.
Mind control,
similarities there. I see.
Yeah, all the aliens who come to visit us generally are so more advanced than we are, and that sort of thing. So they've got all these good groovy things. But Dracula did it.
True.
He had mind control, could stare at you and make you do things.
But this is different, Mike. I mean, they mention how their eyes, they kind of draw them in, their victim in, and try to hurt the individual, using their powers or just sucking the life out of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just think that maybe either one or the other may have gotten inspired by this, either the book or by the movies. I mean, Roger Corman may have was many things, and he probably got inspired by this movie too.
Everyone gets inspired. Excuse me. Everybody gets inspired by something. Yes, he might have seen the original movie and got, "Oh, that's a good idea." Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, moving right along, because this is dragging on a bit. Reception. It did not go well with the reviewers. Oh. And I'm not going to go through all of them, but most of them thought the movie either dragged on and didn't have enough substance, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, everybody picked something about just about.
What was the one? Can you at least tell us 2 or 3 of the bad ones?
Okay.
Well, I'm just saying.
Some just got the ratings numbers, but not actually... Okay. Richard Harrington from the Washington Times gave this film a negative review. He says, noting poor decision-making from its characters and the lack of pacing and writing, a carpenter whose batting average is dipping dangerously low, shows no grasp of character development, plot line, or time passage.
Excuse me, you guys don't know what you're talking about.
I'd like to see this Richard Harrington do bloody better. Okay.
You think he hasn't bothered to check out that his character was developing something?
This was more of a sci-fi drama, suspense thriller with some sci-fi horror thrown into it. Yeah, can't he tell the difference? Anyway, okay, Lloyd Paceman from the Register Guard said that while the remake did not attempt to make Village of Den something that its predecessor was not, the film had mediocre dialogue and plot development. He gave it 2 stars out of 4. He stated that in this film, Reeve made an earnest attempt, that Kozlowski did the highest quality acting for the film, and Decker was credible, and that Hamill was badly miscast.
Well,
so everyone made an effort, but he still didn't like the movie. You know.
So what's the third viewer like?
Okay, Roger Ebert gave it 2 out of 4, and said John Carpenter directs the film quite masterfully.
Really? He says masterfully.
Masterfully? Oh, yes. Then he turns around and says, but one must ask why he picks the dullest, most idiotic screenplays. It said he turned down Basic Instinct to direct this film. At that point, one must wonder if he's out to sabotage his own career. Honestly, reviewers, get a real job, honestly. It wasn't the best movie in the world, but shit, it wasn't that bad either, okay?
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with the first reviewer who says there was no character development. Look at David.
Everyone had a story.
Yeah, even David's character started developing something. While he thought that he was just like all the others, he actually started realizing he's not like the others.
Which lady couldn't have babies?
Was the virgin. Oh no, not the virgin.
One of the mothers couldn't have a baby because she wasn't fertile.
That would have been Jill and Alan's wife. I think probably were trying.
At least one of them was one of them was trying, but one was infertile. So it's impossible. I'm infertile. She got a baby inside you. Okay, fine. So there's history. Trying to have a baby, someone's infertile, blah, blah, blah. Some guys come back from work away, he's been away for 12 months, his wife's pregnant, that sort of stuff. Just little things. And you're going, there was a bit of, you don't want to draw too much on what happened last year or 2 or 3 years ago, because you're going to take away the main part of the movie.
And while I may be... while these guys have no clue, the reviewers, I mean, they don't realise that during the scene where there was a scene where Bob, when the man who was away for 12 months comes back and they have a welcome home party for him, Bob or Bill, whatever.
Fred, whatever.
When Jill she got a camera and she was looking for it, and while she was looking for it, she sees some pent-up emotions from each of the characters around her. Most of them feel a little nervous. Others feel annoyed. Like Bob feels like he's been, he's felt like his wife's been cheating on him. And the virgin girl's feeling a little bit uncertain about her future because now she's going to be pregnant with an unknown baby.
Yeah, well, here's something in my notes. In a 2011 interview, Carpenter described the film as a contractual assignment which he was really not passionate about, and that was possibly one of the reasons why it didn't actually get polished as much as it could have been.
I do think it's pretty good. I like the atmosphere, like when say 10 years later after the kids are all developed, that you could tell in the air that the place has changed because of those kids. Like everyone is fearful of what they might do next. Like you can cut the atmosphere with a knife if you can.
And eat it. No.
And in the process, you don't and wait to the end of the movie. It's still a ghost town, and I don't know if anyone.
Well, a lot of people were told to leave the town. Okay,
Yeah.
they might come back. Okay.
Yeah, and of course, when they drove through the city and town, you see that the lights are still on, but I guess no one's home. So,
Yeah, lights on, but no one's home. Oh, that's a
and
great
which
saying,
indicated that the place is completely
Deserted.
quiet and deserted
And whatever.
And really creepy.
Yeah.
And I just think I like the atmosphere in this movie that gives it the tenseness, like just gives you the feeling that you don't know what's going to happen
The shape
next.
of things to come.
Exactly, Mike. I just don't understand why people can't read those feelings.
Yeah,
in
some of the reviewers
movie.
I don't think are really know anything about movie making.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so,
just the
anyway,
feeling behind it that's really interesting.
Move on. It's been dragging on for a while now.
Sorry.
Availability, folks. Now, eBay, plenty available, but be careful. As the old original movie is there in amongst the newer movie, and there's also a TV series.
Really? Oh, yeah, actually, I did see one TV series,
so
but it has no association with this movie.
No, but when you put the name in, you got to be careful. But yeah, there are plenty available. Be careful which icon you check out, because you might get the original movie, or you might get a TV series on a couple of discs. So we don't want that, do we?
Yeah, you don't want to end up with a TV show that has no association with
Amazon,
this movie.
Amazon, it's rentable, but there's not too many to purchase. So I would suggest, if you don't want to buy it, have a go on Amazon, rent it, have a look, or you got another streaming service you might be able to use. Have a look. And look, it's a good look. It's not an overactive. It's not an action sci-fi thing. It's more like a
horror sci-fi,
a horror suspense thriller. That sort of feel to it. A bit more slower moving. Yeah.
Anyway, just so you guys know, John Carpenter invited the original director from Village of the Damned to this actual that was done in 1960.
The original one,
and to the set and the director obliged and visited the set with his wife.
Yeah, lovely.
Kind of nice, really.
And his little alien kitties. No.
Well, it's nice inviting an older director to not supervise, but just to have a peek
Anyway,
at what John is working on.
I'm going to give it 8.
I'm going to give it 9 out of 10.
Ooh, you're generous.
It's just I do think, I mean, apart from casting, I have no objections to Christopher Reeve.
Christopher Reeve and the other ones are okay. But Mark Hamill, he just
doesn't pull it off for me.
He doesn't pull off as a minister or priest or whatever it was.
I didn't really care about him in the opening. I didn't care about him in the middle. I didn't care about how he died.
He didn't suit.
If it was a different actor, that I'll probably appreciate more.
Yeah,
that's just me.
Sorry, Mark.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not giving Mark a good deal on this one.
Yeah, but I think honestly, the movie could have been a tad better.
Yeah.
If John Carpenter's heart was probably more into the project.
Yeah, if he loved it when he was a kid, he could probably use that too.
But he didn't. It was a contractual obligation sort of thing, and he just...
Did you guys know when... I was telling Mike this today that John wanted to make a remake of The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, but of course the studio said, no, we're not going to do anything like that.
How rude. I like The Creature. He's very nice.
Yeah, well...
Anyway, we got to go.
Okay,
it's getting a bit long now.
So, I hope you guys enjoy this review. Feel free to watch the DVD when you can.
Actually, if you can go on... I didn't check the availability much on the old movie, but if you can get access to it through Prime or some other service, have a look at the old movie. The original one back in 1960. 1960.
Around the time, probably around when they made Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, in 1960. Yeah, have a look at the 1960s version first if you can get access to it, and then look at the one that John Carpenter made. I think it's a better movie.
Yeah, I think so.
But leave it to your own decision.
Yeah, guys, it's up to you guys to work out which one you think is the best.
But I really think it didn't box office probably because it was misadvertised. It doesn't come over like a sci-fi horror. It comes more over like a suspense thriller. And the people like suspense thrillers probably didn't go to the theatre. And the people who went to see it
I thought it was horror.
Yeah, but you can have a suspense thriller with a touch of horror in it. but it wasn't a sci-fi horror per se. It was more like, okay, the kiddies are here. How's the town handling it? It came over more like a suspense thriller. What's going to happen next, sort of thing. And that's, to me, it comes over more like that than a sci-fi horror. And I think the wrong people were targeted for the theatrical release of the movie. That's all.
Anyway, I do like the character who plays David, and he's a really nice kid. And I do think that his character would go on to do great things if they ever used that example in the movie to make a sequel out of it. And even though you know me,
like Damien.
You know me, guys. I'm not into sequels too much at the moment, but
I only like sequels if they're relevant.
And I don't see him as a Damien type character in this movie. I see him as more of a. He may prove to the world that he may be may help.
A great teacher, philosopher.
He may help mankind or help both races, both alien and human alike.
And bring us together as friends across a negotiating table. How's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds groovy.
So, anyway, that's about it for us tonight. So, feel free to watch the movie if you can.
Or both.
And both. Or all three if you want.
Yeah,
as I said before, you don't have to watch all three because...
The 1960s and this one, I reckon definitely.
Yeah,
they can compare them.
Because if you guys are dissatisfied with more just the first one or the second one, but you find the third one pretty interesting, it's up to you guys. So, okay, thanks very much for watching us and listening to us, guys. So, this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Michael.
Saying we'll see you guys for our next podcast. Bye for now,
Bye,
guys.
guys.